Okay, so my alarm went off. It was 10. So basically, I tried to turn off all my alarms so that we can just get this done. Actually, it's 27. We got 3 minutes, and it already reset. So let me restart the timer. Because when the alarm goes off, it stops the recording. Okay. So unless there's a preset or something. So basically, so mom had Marshall Silver in the home. So Marshall Silver is basically affirmations do cement into the character, and he basically explained that you lose a certain amount of time and energy and money suing, and that ultimately, and I can't speak on every case at all whatsoever. That's not what I'm saying on every case, no. But in many situations that the person suing ultimately loses in the end. But time, because time is what you can't get back, and you can make trillions of dollars in the time that you sue for whatever. And then lastly, we learned something about big money. Big money and some companies and things. Well, now big money. Now I could be wrong about this, but many suits that are suing big money, they have like 100 lawyers or something. They spend most years just delaying cases, just delaying the cases. Many of the cases, from my understanding, they usually take about 10 years, exactly 10 years. And I know I talked about this first, so I'm not really trying to get back into this, but usually the person's trying to get 10 million. By the 10th year, they just agree to the 1 million that was offered initially during the first year, and somewhere around there, and that just goes to pay the lawyer fees. It doesn't end up being used for anything because it took so long, the 10 years. Okay. And the lawyers often are working deferred. Okay. Now that's just an example. Now don't take my word for it. Okay. On that. So not condoning any of that. So whatever I'm talking about, we've been taught not to hold negative opinions about other people. Okay. And on that note, let me say the way that we were taught is this. And I don't know, she didn't say it like this, okay? But the way we were taught is this. You're black, you're a woman, you're a guy, you're white, whatever it is. Don't get caught up into the or religion. Black power, okay? Black power, white power, okay? Whatever it is. She said, understand that all of those things are games, okay? And that you may be talking with someone that's saying black power, black power, black power, or white power, white power, okay? I'm not ridiculing either or saying anything. And you're black and you're hanging with a group saying black power, or woman power and you're a woman, or man power and you're a man, or white power and you're or Latino, Pacific Islander, Asian, Native American, okay, or Chicano, okay. Now you're hanging with this person, and all of a sudden you realize you need a ride home, and it's raining, and the person says, "Oh yeah, I'll give you a ride home," but they leave you at the bus stop, and it's raining. And then there's a flood. But before the flood hits you, this example, before the flood hits you, and you're the Black Power, with the Black Power group, this example, a Ku Klux Klan member comes over. Now, the Ku Klux Klan is a group that politically is not supporting the advancement of, I don't know if this is true now, okay? But historically, the advancement of like Black Power initiatives, okay? Okay, this is just an example. This is something in America, okay? Now, a Ku Klux Klan member may go by, it's raining, see you way in the bus stop and say, get in the back truck, or just get in. I'll take you to your house. And drops you off at your house, and you live. This is how we were taught in our home. That this is the reality of life. is that the Black power person may say, you got to pay me $10 for gas. And you say, well, I don't have $10. And they leave you in the rain. Okay? This is what we were taught. Now, we weren't taught like, well, the way I'm saying it. We were just taught love all beings. Treat them all the same. Don't put one on a pedestal because they may disappoint you. The one that everyone else is telling you may save your life. Okay? You may be white power, and then the person that actually just simply gives you a ride or simply helps you out or something, could be that other group or that other person or a Black person or something. Okay? But that's not how we were taught it. That's my take on it. That's my spin on it. Okay? And that's the truth. Now, to me, that's the reality of life. And that's how life works. That's how we were taught. In other words, it is, don't hold any kind of like staunch value and and don't get caught up in people's things, okay? Because we were taught it's all a game. Now, I don't know how I could explain what it means, the word game. I don't know. Okay, because my grandmother was raised during the Depression, was a baby during the Depression, my grandma. And she had 9 kids and a big farm and all this and all that. My mom came from that. Okay, so our great-grandmom was, like my great-grandfather was the first police officer in this community, and a teacher. My great-grandmother was a teacher, okay? So, and all of my family on my mom's side there that I'm talking about, own land. They're like lawyers, and one is a judge, used to be a DA, that sort of thing. And I didn't plan to talk about this. And on my father's side, engineer. My grandfather was an engineer on my dad's side, and my aunt was a curator or banker. Took over the running or possibly the ownership of a bank, and she's a paralegal. And my aunt is a teacher, okay? So, and everyone on my mom's side is landowners, okay? So it's really, really awesome, okay? My dad's a studio owner, distributor of music, producer of music, that sort of thing, okay? Mom she owned the building, and then I bought it, and then I got my VA, and I bought, this house, okay? And I gave that other house back to my mom, and then she sold it, okay? And now it's worth almost about 1.5 million. Now it's listed for $1 million, but they just bought it and they're not going to sell it. Okay, so if you're going to make an offer, it's going to sell for about 1.5, and then when you get done with everything, it might come to about 2 million. That's what I was thinking. Now that's just my thought. Okay. So anyway, so basically, we were just taught. Okay, I'll give you an example. There was this guy. Who nobody liked, the bus driver. Nobody liked. I liked this guy. I thought he was nice. I thought he was a sweet guy. Okay. Nobody liked this guy. All the kids were like, oh, I can't stand this guy. I can't stand this guy. Okay. I was waiting on the bus, and all the bus drivers were passing me by. Okay. They were just passing me by, looking at me. And I was waiting on the bus, and I had to get home. And if I didn't, and so I didn't know this, but if I missed the next bus after this next one, 2 more buses, I would have been stuck out there. And I was like 3-4 hours away from home. Okay. As a kid, this is me as a kid coming home. Okay. Now this guy, he's a white guy. Okay. And the other buses drivers were Black too. Okay. Not that we're not making a racial thing here. Okay. I'm not making a racial thing. I'm not saying you can't trust Black people. That's not what I'm trying to say. So anyway, I don't have an opinion. So they were just driving by. I don't know them, but I did know the other guy. We saw him more. So they had a nickname for him too. They were just say they didn't like him. I didn't have an opinion about him. I just thought he was a nice guy. I thought he was okay. I didn't think, he was the only bus driver that pointed back and said, you got to walk back up about a half a mile to that bus stop. So I did. So he pointed, and finally I understood what was happening. There was a bus stop where I was, but it was no longer operational. They hadn't removed it. Didn't know this, okay? So I quickly, cross the street, go wait till the light, cross the street, go where he said, and there are other people waiting, or maybe, I get there. So when I get on the bus now, and I tell the person what happened, they say, "You're so lucky, girl, you're so lucky," because I don't know if they say girl, because, they're bus drivers. So they say, "You're lucky because this is the last bus out of town." I would have been stuck. And I don't know if I had money to call my mom to come get me. I had a bus pass. I mean, I might, there would have been people to help me. It's not like you're lost. You always find a way. But wow. Okay, and that's just an example because you don't want to judge people, okay? So, and you're not trying to harm someone or harm their job and okay? So, as I talk about what I'm getting ready to talk about now, this is about 40 minutes in, it looks like. I just want you to know I'm not jaded. That's what I'm trying to say. I don't know what that word means. Tell me I understand. What that word means is like you angry at, no. and truly it's my goal to talk about it's not good to cut your face out, but I think I'm in this room right now, and the kitty I've built this whole little thing for her, so I'm over in this corner, and then but it's kind of a nice day outside, so I was like, I'll just do this. So anyway, so I call her Queen Princess, okay? Queen Sheba. She's a pretty little kitty. Maybe you've seen her in one of the videos. I definitely have pictures of her. I'm trying to put her on my stock site. She's so cute. Okay, so here we go. So as I talk about what I'm talking about, it's my goal to be non-emotional, because I don't want to come across that I'm upset. But what I want to now, the last part of why I'm making this, okay, is a study. Just to capture my mental state. Okay, it's not a mental health issue, okay, but to capture my mental state, because what I want to show, learn, teach someone that might be experiencing what they consider to be unfairness, truly, is how to relieve themselves of what they're experiencing. Now, that's very important to me, and hopefully I'll be able to demonstrate that when I'm finished this, and then take my own advice. But I will try to do this without any emotion, okay? Now, and the last thing that I'm saying is, what I'm saying might be, for an individual not experiencing it or not seeing it, though, it may be hard to believe, okay? I guess I would have to say, I don't have anything to do with that. I can understand a person. I'm not trying to get someone to believe. In fact, maybe it's better if you don't, because if you do, your reticular activating system is going to start looking for it. And that's why I say, don't watch this, because I don't want people's reticular activating system I don't want to mess up anyone's life. Okay? So if you're happy, don't watch this video. Do me a favor. Do yourself a favor. Don't watch this, okay? Now, as we move on, I'm going to go on and, that's the door now behind me. So I'm going to go on and go into these things now, okay? And so we got 20 minutes left here. It's 13 minutes in. I'm really trying to watch the time. Okay, so this is going to be a video, if I ever get started, it's on blame, complaining, and just explaining what I've been going through. It's a mistake point. And I want to also, while I'm doing it, possibly analyze, which is interesting. Never do this. If you're experiencing unfairness, what I'm understanding about law of attraction, don't sit and try and analyze it. Instead, focus on what you do want. Don't focus on what you don't want. Don't analyze it. That's the worst thing you can do. The best thing you can do is focus on what you do want. That's what you're supposed to be doing with your mind. Okay. So as I'm learning this, big mistake, because I've been, so now let me jump into my story, and I'm trying to tell. Okay. So let me just try to do this and pray that we're able to just do this and finish it. And I'm trying to keep it quick. Okay. So basically, you all know that, and if you haven't, then I'll mention that. So we talked about what happened. Okay. So before this story begins, that I'm getting ready to get into, launch into all these complaint things, okay? But before this, so we're not blaming people, we're not doing that. These are my ideas and my concepts and my theories. Maybe true, maybe not true. What I'm telling you that happened is true. And yet, I want to say one last thing. And this is, I'm not trying to say that what I'm saying is not true. But I want you to understand something about the law of attraction. What I want you to understand is that you're creating everything in your life. That what you like, that what you don't like, if you're being persecuted, whatever. And now, from my understanding, personally, maybe not, I guess, as a group, okay? And my point simply is that, and maybe not in all cases, but what I'm trying to say is that so I am creating everything I'm talking about. I've attracted it somehow with my mind. Okay? So when a person and I didn't want to get that deep into this, okay? That I'm creating all of this. So which makes me completely responsible. You must take completely responsible for your life. And the other part that I want to point out is we're creating things in the moment. And I want to point out that the mind is very complex. It's quite simple to learn the rules of the mind too. And the mind can also be simple when you look at it. When you understand that whatever it is that you believe, your mind will create and validate. You understand? Like Ford said, if you believe it is true, then it is. If you believe you can, then you can. If you believe you can't, then you can't. Okay? And so it sounds complex, but it is simple, but it sounds complex, but it's the truth. So in other words, what I'm explaining is the reticular, I've somehow programmed or been programmed my reticular activating system, which is a form of self-hypnosis and auto-suggestion, okay? But basically, to look for this and to validate this in my life. Okay, now, I don't know if I'm not trying to invalidate what I'm about to say. I'm just trying to point out to you that that we create by our focus more the same, and that we take elements to validate. Whether or not the elements are truly validating it, it may be, but it may not be too. And that's the paradox and the complexity and the interesting thing about our minds. In other words, I've heard the word delusional when it comes to a person making their dreams come true. In a sense that, for instance, Henry Ford, people that succeed, they believe that they could do this stuff that everybody else sees as impossible. They believe it, they validate it, and people think they're crazy. Okay? And I think they thought Henry Ford was crazy, okay? And then they do it. And sometimes you can will nature to do things, okay? All of this to say that I just realized lately that certain things wouldn't have occurred had my mind been in a more positive state of mind, okay? Now, let me tell you that 95 to 97% of the world are not positive thinkers, okay? And that I was just one of the group, okay? As I start to find out, it's only 1 to 5% of people who are positive thinkers. The most successful people, they don't think negative thoughts whatsoever. And they wouldn't watch a video like this. They would know not to watch it. Okay, don't waste your time watching this. Okay? Okay, so now we move on to say, this isn't to take away blame or responsibility from people who've done things that I'm discussing in here they shouldn't do. Okay, I learned that from a lady, really, at the USO. And we had a military duty or mission or job that we had to do. It was doing my final. And I thought I'd be able to finish my final. I knew the material and I failed. And I said, well, I'll take responsibility. I should have just told my teacher, but I didn't. So I failed. And the lady said, no, it doesn't work like that. She says, you go back and you tell them you had a mission in the military and you need to take your test again. And I did, and I passed. And so in other words, you have to understand that certain individuals herein, through my own law of attraction, and this is something that I realized lately too that I want to say, I have gratitude, and I must increase my gratitude, because every single person I'm talking about here, what I'm getting ready to talk about, whenever I do, it's been 40 minutes already, okay? However, I'm a big talker. I like to talk. Most people do. We're starting to find out, and that it's a virtue to listen, okay? Because then you can learn something new instead of just hearing what's in your own head. I learned that. So, what I'm starting to find is that there must be incredible gratitude to all these people I'm getting ready to talk about and complain about. And the reason is because all beings in our life are helping us to achieve our vision of the law of attraction, whether we've set it for a positive charge, or a negative charge, or whether we know we're doing it or not. Every single person's helping us achieve that goal, even if we don't realize what's happening. So which it is, all these groups and people are helping me to become the very best person that I need to be, then I have extraordinary gratitude for all these people who I'm getting ready to talk about. Because without them and their part in my life, although challenging, have blessed me more than I can explain. Because these challenges are leading me to my $8.5 billion. And then maybe I don't have it right there. It says it, $8.5 billion. No, I'm having, yeah. You just don't see it. So I'm not gonna move the camera right now. I should. Let me show you. 8.5. Yeah. I'm an 8.5 billionaire. I'm an 8.5 billionaire. I have it there. Okay, I just don't want to change it. There we go. Okay. They're helping me. And I'm getting ready to do it. I'm getting ready to do it because I'm focused on it, and I'm going to start learning the laws of the mind. Okay. So when I succeed, wealth, health, joy, peace, bliss, and making my 100th birthday, and I'm dancing at the age of 100, and all the whippersnappers are like, look at her go, woo, 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 then you know who to thank. It's my challenges. I feel grateful, okay? All right, so now we're going to jump into this. Okay, we're just going to go and jump. I stopped all the other alarms. It's 22 minutes in, and or 23, according to this. Okay, so let's just go on and get started with this. So now let me tell you the next part of this, okay? So the next part of this is that before the story begins, this complaint thing that I'm going to do, which I'm going to do it. I'm going to explain why I do it too. I'm going to do it because, believe it or not, I've fallen into complaining. I didn't start that way. This is something I want to say. Before this complaining foyer that I'm getting ready to do right now, before it began, I was driving home, and God spoke to me, or God talked to me. You know, you get a hunch and that sort of thing. Something told me, that sort of thing. God said, oh, something's bad is about to happen to you. And I said, and God said, I can help you to avoid this. I'll tell you what to do. And you'll completely avoid this bad thing that's about to happen to you. God said, but if you avoid it, you're never going to reach your dreams. The dreams you say you want, you're never going to do that. You just won't be the person to get it. So which one do you want? Because make the decision now, because I'm going to show you how to avoid it. And I said, no, God, I want my dreams. And God said, you have to walk through the fire. This is the term God used. And I say, okay, yes. Okay. And now we go into the story, okay? So when all of these things happened, I was thinking, oh, wow, here's my blessing happening to me now, okay? So now let me explain to you it. And the last thing I want to say is at least 2 times, if not more, at least 2 times that I can clearly point, God told me stop here, and I didn't stop, and something negative occurred. God told me get up and go over there, and I didn't do it, and something negative occurred. It completely impacted my life. So if you have an opportunity to listen to that wee small voice that's telling you do this, do that, do it. Because it'll change your life. Like these 2 things completely changed my life. Okay. So let me start into the story. Okay. So let me just start. I want to, okay. So this particular night, so this is the night of the false arrest. So this night, God had told me to go see Mom. And I felt I had lost my ID. My ID was in my military uniform. And I said to my voice, no. God first told me, go to your mom's house. I said, no, that's in LA. I went back the other way to Lancaster, where I live. We're at this house now. No, because Mom was moving out of her house. She was selling it. So go back over there where you're going to help her to move. Go there. And I said, no, I got to go back to Lancaster, go get my ID. That was the first warning God told me. God had already told me walk through the fire. So the next warning, there's this lookout point here in Lancaster. God said, get off here. Get off here for a little while. I was getting sleepy, and it was because I was going to night school. So I said, I just need to take a nap. So so I said, okay. And I had done that before, and a police officer pulled me over, and he said, he was communicating me, don't pull over and sleep on the side of the road. So I said, well, I'm not going to sleep. I'm keeping my word to him. This police officer had told me to do that. So I said, here's a white guy. He pulled me over. He was trying to tell me, don't do this. Okay. So I pulled into this. I passed. The guy said, pull into the lookout point, take a nap, and then go. It's only like 15 minutes from my house. But I said, it's only 15 minutes from my house. Why pull in? Okay. I said, I'll just pull in on the off ramp. So I went to the off ramp. So I wasn't on the freeway because I promised. And I pulled over, and then I just slept for like 5 minutes. And this is me going to school, night school, commuting between there and then going back into my military unit, my military reserve unit. Okay. After doing active duty. So, which isn't good. It should have pulled over. But basically, my point is simply, now that I think about it, I'm thinking about it now, then as a student, is just being a commuting student. So that was the night of the false arrest. So I pulled off of there, and 2 officers appeared. Okay. And I've already mentioned this story of the false arrest thing. Okay. And I could mention it again. Go into it again. Another version of this false arrest thing. Okay. I have 2 minutes. So, I guess I could mention it. So, but basically let me throw into this again. But basically, the thing with this false arrest thing is that I was pulled over when I was in Fort Irwin, and 2 officers just detained me. So I had driven past Fort Irwin, and I was lost. Okay. I didn't know. And I called my squad leader, and he said, you just need to, I had pulled over and called him on the freeway. It is a dark freeway, desert freeway. Okay. He said, I had seen an officer and I had made way, and then I pulled over and called my squad leader. So he said, what you need to do is, all you need to do is get off and get back on the freeway. Okay. I'm gonna stop this because 30 minutes, because if you go too long, I'm not able to do it. So I'm gonna stop it and then restart a new one. Okay. So I'm gonna do that right now.